Oh, it's another big one. We can't help but stress that because this is the stage of the tournament where teams need to make sure they don't drop points because it's getting pretty crowded in the race to the top four. Punjab Kings know that. KKR know that. They couldn't do the job yesterday against the Delhi Capitals. But can Mayank Agarwal's team do it against KL Rahul, who features for a team against the Punjab Kings for the first time in 6 years? It's the first time that Lucknow and Punjab will meet. That's where our attention lies on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by ICO 9 5G. It's very good evening to Dan Vettori. Can't get enough of these games coming thick and fast. We're back at the MCA Stadium in Pune, where we saw a low-scoring, not-so-thriller the other day, 144 Rajasthan against RCB. Can we expect another low-scoring one today? Or?
You're a bit of a snob to low-scoring games. I'm a bowler at heart, so I enjoy those. I see the team defend well, so I can appreciate them. So I'll try and teach you to appreciate them.
Fine.
Too.
We have all the time in the world for you to help me learn that. What is Ben Cutting at heart? Is he more of a bowler? Surely he's a batter. He's surely not a bowler at heart. Katsi, are you?
No, I'm a batter, but I like seeing wickets. I'm a bit like Dan. I like seeing low-scoring games and teams try and grind it out and defend.
You've been a Dan fanboy from the beginning. He's been telling me from the beginning he wants to be paired as much with you. Finally, he's got his wish. You could give him his pundit cap now if you'd like.
I haven't got any coaching jobs at the moment, Cutsy, so I can't take you anywhere. So you don't need to be so nice.
I got no playing jobs either.
Seems like I'm the only one who has a permanent job on this show today. Right. Let's and that's not saying good. That's not a good thing. Anyway, in all seriousness, the points table will reflect that Punjab Kings have some work to do, and they've managed to pick up the points in the last game, but this is a side that is blown hot and cold, which tells you when you look at a team that's played 8, won 4, lost 4, and they'll be looking to at least come in touch with RCB at 10 points. Lucknow as well. Seems like Lucknow looking good, but one win, one loss could change a few things. It's a close race, even though we believe that Lucknow looked the better team. Punjab 1 win away from joining them.
I think so, and Punjab have got no choice but to blow hot and cold because of the way they play and how aggressive they've been. Possibly up until that last game where Shikhar Dhawan, Mayank Rajapaksa tried to put together a base, and it really worked for them. They played exceptionally well. We probably questioned whether they needed to go a little bit harder early on, but by the end of it, it set up Livingston at the end. Ideally, he'd probably like a little bit more time to put the icing on it, but I think they feel like they're starting to get that right tempo from that last game.
Mayank Agarwal, though, saying at the toss that he's happy winning it and bowling because they just know, they want to know what they're chasing. He didn't give any other reason. Now, it's a team that's unchanged, so Bhanuka Rajapaksa will keep his spot in a team. So too will Rishi Dhawan, who had quite a dramatic re-entry into IPL cricket with that face mask and whatnot, bowling a last over to MS Dhoni. You were keen that they perhaps look at someone like Benny Howell, but after they got the job done in the last game, no surprises, I guess, that they've gone with the same team?
No, I think so. And to that point around them finding that balance, that's what they were searching for before this last game. And Rishi Dhawan hadn't played an IPL game, I think, for 4 years. And he was thrown into the cauldron to bowl to Dhoni in the last over. So I think they'll hope that they're not put in that situation again because he's not the ideal bowler for that. But he does give them balance, and that's what they've been searching for.
You look at that team, which prides itself on a power game, Katsi, one which hasn't necessarily taken off or teed off throughout. They're still waiting for Johnny Bairstow to have a big innings this season. What we saw in the last game was Bhanuka Rajapaksa at 3, which means Livingston could effectively be batting 4 or 5, or even Bairstow could be batting lower. Just wonder if you, in spite of getting the job done against a struggling Chennai team, if you think this is still the best balanced Punjab side, looking at the amount of players that crowd 3, 4, 5.
I think for the moment, yeah, and momentum is a funny thing, particularly when they play the brand of cricket that they want to play and they've been trying to play. If they can get on a roll towards the second half of the tournament now, playing that aggressive cricket they've been trying to do, particularly with Livingston, going the way he has been, they could be a force to be reckoned with the last couple of games. But like Dan said before, it can be hot and cold when you play that sort of brand.
Now, Lucknow have been, you could say, more hot than cold. They find themselves at 10 points. They've made a change. It's a very curious change because we know Avesh Khan had a niggle, which is why they played Mohsin Khan. Now, Avesh Khan is back, but Mohsin Khan stays. So they're going with the extra seamer, and they've done away with Manish Pandey. KL Rahul saying at the toss that Jason Holder has not had much of a bat. We can also say the same perhaps about Ayush Badoni, but for a couple of games. So a couple of batters that have gone unused, untested, not needed. So he's happy to sacrifice a top order batter for a bowler. Do you like that change, given your appreciation for bowling in low-scoring games?
Well, my appreciation for Manish Pandey as well, but I do like that change. That provides extremely strong bowling attack, which they already had before they made that decision. But Avish Khan just takes them over the edge. That's I think the best bowling lineup in the IPL. And if that top six can keep going the way they have, if KL Rahul can keep going the way he has and get some balance, and that probably puts more onus on Stoinis at the top of the order, which he'll love. He'll love going up the top and get more opportunity for someone probably more dynamic than Manish Pandey, more aggressive, and obviously take a little bit of stress away from KL Rahul about strike rates.
I mean, I'm looking at this Lucknow team who won, 2 out of their last 3 and have won 5 out of 7 or 8 so far, Katsi. And I think, would this be a good thing to make a change in balance? I mean, is it a nothing to lose sort of change? You are effectively moving a batter out. KL Rahul saying he wants to have more options, but for a team that's winning a bit, changing the balance, are you a fan of that?
Look, it's probably not a bad stage of the tournament. We're just halfway or just over halfway now to try and mix it up if you're going to do that at some point in time. See if it works. If it doesn't, it's not the be-all and end-all because of where they are on the ladder and how many games to go still. So it could work out really well for them. If that lineup is correct, I do like Stoinis at 3 up against the new ball, potentially batting in the power play. It's going to be good to see.
Has Manish Pandey not helped his cause? In spite of that win against the Mumbai Indians, run a ball 22, he's already seen himself in and out of the side for K. Gautam earlier in the season. That's what that's what happened at number 3. They're still looking for someone to kind of make that position their own. But has Pandey contributed to this decision?
Absolutely, and probably the only reason we've talked about him so much is because he's obviously a former Indian player, and he's been a big money buy in previous auctions. So he rightly gets discussed and analysed more than a younger player. So he hasn't helped himself. But in a lot of ways, and I think this harks back to his time with Sunrisers, it's not about the runs, it's about the intent, it's about the strike rate and supporting batsmen around him. So he's not putting pressure on them to take all that pressure around strike rate. So I think he's paid the price purely around his scoring strike rate.
Did it surprise you as to how Manish Pandey's had this slide in the IPL, Ben? A lot of us expected a lot more from him after he was an IPL champion with KKR and got for big money to the Sunrisers too. Seems to have just gone off the boil. Even in a 10-team IPL, you can't find place for him.
Look, to be fair, that's some of the natural variation you can see throughout guys' careers, particularly through the IPL. You've only got to take a look at Kuldeep Yadav's last couple of years and where he was to where he is now. That's just the natural ebbs and flows of a professional cricketer, and particularly in T20. So we know what he can do. We know what he's produced in the past. It's not saying that he won't do it again. I think he certainly will at some point in time.
Now, the other thing is there were a number of players that we didn't know what Lucknow's ideal 11 would be going into the tournament. Ayush Badoni has made his position, secured, you'd think now. They're even dropping a capped international seasoned IPL player like Pandey because they have the faith in Badoni. And he's had some valuable contributions. In the first game, came in at 4 down. Well, there was a game that they were 4 down, 29 for 4, and he got a nice half century. They lost that game to the Gujarat Titans. But in other situations too, he's had a quick fire cameo in the games against Chennai as well as Delhi and Sunrisers to just give them a little push towards the end. I'm wondering if this is a player that could come up with 3. Or are you happy with Marcus Stoinis playing that role, where initially they kept Stoinis to finish games off at 6, 7, 8?
Well, the other option is Holder as well. They may look at him. I think Badoni almost balances out the whole team because they're searching for that number 6 local batsman, and they've found it through him. And all the other pieces seem relatively logical, particularly when Mohsin Khan bowled well in the last game. Avish Khan come back into it, and all the all-rounders they have in Pandya, Holder and Stoinis. It's a really well-balanced team.
Stoinis has had different roles to play. What's his best use in an IPL side?
I think in an IPL side, I think he can come in after the power play. I'm not against him being in the power play, but as soon as after the power play and then try and finish an innings so he could bat for an extended period of time. I think when he's played for Australia at his best, it's sort of been that 4 or 5 role where he's been able to see what the game looks like in front of him and then react to that and then hopefully build an innings and take bowlers down at the end. Because he's one of those guys who wants balls. He wants 3 to 10 balls to actually get a feel for the game. He doesn't like to hit from ball 1, but when he gets going, it can be spectacular.
I was very curious to see how Lucknow used him in the first game that he was available, Ben, where they kept him back. They sent guys like Holder and Gautam up the order. They did not send Stoinis in until the very end. And he nearly did the job against Rajasthan Royals. Remember that game? But they're not. That doesn't seem like a plan for the rest of the season. He's not going to be used as a pure finisher. Could that get confusing at times? And how would you like to see Marcus Stoinis used in this Lucknow team?
No, I think Dan hit the nail on the head. Obviously he's got the power, but he's far more effective using that power when he's got balls under his belt. He's notoriously not a fast starter. He's a run a ball sort of guy, 5-off-5, 10-off-10. But if you put him in there and give him 30 balls, 40 balls, that's where he's going to make it up at the back end of his innings, which is where you get him in, that 4-5 mark, even 3 if need be. So we can put those balls early into him, so we can build that pressure. Build his momentum through the back end of the innings, because he might be 30 off 40, but he's going to be 50, 60 very, very quickly after that.
All right, seems to have just taken to this new franchise. Marcus Stoinis seems comfortable, even though he's not had a lot of big innings just yet. You don't need to, with KL Rahul going the way he is. Any sentiment here at all with KL Rahul? When asked at the toss, said, I'm quite balanced about this game. But we all know Punjab would have loved to keep him. Anyone would love to keep KL Rahul. Clearly, he wanted to move on and have a different sort of challenge. You think that the relationship would have been forged between Rahul and the franchise that first made him captain?
I think he moved on easily. It depends whether Punjab Kings moved on. I think that's the real question. Have they moved on? And understandably, they probably haven't, because of how good a player KL Rahul is. But have to acknowledge that probably the time he was individually successful, but as a team they weren't. So I think it was a nice change for KL to go out into this new franchise, and it seems to be working well at the moment.
Would it make Punjab's win that much sweeter if it were against a player that they would have certainly tried to keep but didn't want to? I mean, does that ever happen, Ben?
Yeah, without a doubt. But it goes both ways as well. Not just the team, but the player as well. So, he played very, very well for Punjab over the years. They've scored a number of runs for them. So it swings and roundabouts. He's probably going to be very good mates with them still, but he'd like to stick the knife in too.
Yeah, are we ever going to get to that football sort of phase where players may not celebrate against their former clubs if they score a goal? Rashid Khan was over the moon the other night, finishing against the Sunrisers.
We've got the right man on tonight, because I don't think Ben spoke to the Brisbane Heat team after he moved to the Sydney Thunder.
That's because you left behind dry.
I wasn't there.
You take some time. I'm okay to going on with this. If it makes it any more awkward for Ben, I'm happy for this to carry on.
We've obviously got some things to work through. Like
all right, boys, behave. Yeah, that's after the show. But in fairness, that sentiment not crept into the IPL just yet. Everyone seems to have moved on just fine. Ben, I mean, you have Quinton de Kock, who was with Mumbai for so many years. You had Rashid Khan, who went from Sunrisers to Gujarat. Doesn't seem to be much of a sentiment. Maybe that's just how the IPL is.
No, to be honest, I'd like to see a little bit more aggro from time to time and really get guys getting under other guys' skin and really make a spectacle of it. Obviously, respectfully, of course, but I don't think there's enough of that anymore. I think that's because you're playing against someone one day with their team, and then you're playing alongside them the next. So you get to know everyone really, really well. You're obviously in bio bubbles. You're living in each other's pockets. So it's tough to give them a bit of stick after that.
Not sure how you respectfully get under someone's skin, but
I'd feel sorry for Dinesh Karthik. Could have to do it every game, wouldn't he? Because he's played for every franchise.
Katsi's not far away. He's got a few, hasn't he?
Has he? Okay, all right. Well,
Ben, how many franchises has it been?
There'd be some
I
exhausted
think there's
players.
been a couple. It was Kings, Rajasthan, Sunrisers,
Mumbai,
Sunrisers.
Kolkata.
KKR.
Yeah, so that's 5. Yeah. Don't bring up which one?
Don't bring up Sunrisers.
All right, interesting. Yeah, there's Dinesh Karthik. Aaron Finch, he'd be confused as hell. Most of his former teams don't exist. But anyway, KL Rahul is our focus. He's going to be batting first, which will again put the spotlight on KL Rahul and his tempo and mood. They must have won against Mumbai. But do we still feel Rahul is a player that doesn't necessarily play to the gears that the match sometimes demands? Or is that an unfair?
I think that's unfair now. I think potentially last year that was the case, where it looked like he was trying to bat at that strike rate of 115, 120, and then let something magical happen at the back end where Kings needed him to be more aggressive. But it feels like he's got the tempo perfect so far this season, particularly the last game. And I think we're maybe slightly critical in the moment, but in hindsight, with the score that was put on the board and they're defending it, it showed that he actually read the game better than anyone. And 100 off 62, 63 or whatever it was is a great performance of T20 cricket. So I think he's evolving to understand when the right time is, and he's not just going to hang in there till the end, then go hard. He's going to pick a time and then realise that's the right moment.
Yeah, perhaps he would be mindful of the fact that this Punjab team actually is one of the better death bowling teams in the IPL. So maybe it won't be wise to try and go big towards the end, because Harshdeep Singh, Kagiso Rabada in the last game in particular were instrumental in ensuring Chennai didn't get over the line. Harshdeep has been a revelation, and we don't say that for players that have only got 3 wickets in 7 or 8 games so far. But the fact of the matter is that economy rate from 16 to 20 is something else. 7.3 at a time where bowlers are failing to defend in excess of 20 in the final over. Arshdeep still uncapped, of course, and still doing the job. 9 overs, he gets the 1 wicket. Ben, correct me, have you played Arshdeep Singh in the IPL? I'm sure you would have.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I think I have. He obviously bowled very well the other night, 1 for 23 or 4. And
what are you laughing about?
I think so. He doesn't remember. That's what every team wants to do. I think I played with him.
Hang on a second. Hang on. What? You break it up.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, he just burst out laughing. I didn't want you to mistake.
Close friends with Arshdeep.
Right, Ben. Yeah, just take me through Arshdeep Singh, if you do remember, now that it's all coming back. Just what it was like facing him, and he seems to have become this really hard bowler to get away, even for batters that are set.
But I'll be honest, I don't remember facing him. I'm not sure if I have faced him. I've definitely played against him. He's obviously bowling very, very well at the death. You look at those, his economy rate there he's better at the death than he has been through the middle, and that's saying something. When most bowlers are travelling around the park, he's going, I think it's 7.3.
Yeah, we spoke about this briefly yesterday in a chat. Seems to have got the hard part right. Now, surely it would be bothering him that he's not getting wickets. Every bowler would want wickets, not just be a defensive or keep the runs down sort of bowler.
I think he'd want that personally, but I think there'd be such an appreciation within the team, within management, from Mayank Agarwal, that he can turn to Arshdeep in these incredibly tough situations. And like you rightly said, there's been a lot of bowlers who haven't been able to pull off, a lot of experienced bowlers who haven't been able to pull off what Arshdeep's done so well. And his sequencing at the back end is fantastic. He really misses with execution, and he looks like he's ahead of the batsman every single time. So there's no batsman who's lining him up at any stage, and that's such a skill. And I actually think he's bowling pretty good in other situations. He just hasn't quite got the reward.
Does he strike you as the kind of bowler who can be a dangerous new ball bowler? Or a steady new ball bowler?
No, I think he can. And this is another discussion I think we had the other day, was that he has a defined role at the back end of the game. He doesn't have a defined role anywhere else in those 16 overs. So potentially when he becomes a first and third over bowler or a fourth and sixth, whatever it is, that may allow him to flourish in that role as well.
Let's just look at Arshdeep's key numbers. We also got a pitch map actually that would be fascinating to see in terms of how often he's nailed his Yorker. And in the death overs this season, now the dot balls are all in black, the singles are all in yellow. So if you've got a lot of black and yellow up and abouts there where the box is, you've been doing all right. You could see the boundary balls are in blue, so there are just 3 of those in that full sort of zone, and hardly a 6, just 1 that I can see, the other one's in the slot. So there's a lot of groupings that see singles, dots, the odd 2 in that Yorker area. Ben, it's been an interesting year, hasn't it? A lot of bowlers who seem to be good with their Yorkers do not seem to be nailing them as such. You have an uncapped kid here who seems to be doing it at will.
Yeah, that's the thing about bowling a York, particularly as a seamer. It's once you've got your confidence up on it, you know you can nail it. You just want to go to it all the time, particularly if it's working for you. You're always going to. I remember last time only a week ago, we spoke about, is it really the time and place always to go to the Yorker at the death overs? Not necessarily. No, we talked about going hard length at sometimes and rolling the dice and trying to get that wicket. But he doesn't need to, because he can nail that Yorker, more often than not. And he can go wide, he can go straight under the batter's feet as well.
Does he have a lot of variation? Just Arshdeep, I'm trying to think if a bowler doesn't have too many balls, is it easier for him to master the Yorker as against guys that are trying to get 3 or 4 different types of balls? Right, Ben?
No, I think it just fluctuates from year to year. I mean, he could roll out in 2 weeks' time and he's lost the momentum of his Yorker, so he's going to have to go to his changes a little bit more and be more proactive with that. But when something's working for you and nobody else is picking it up, you may as well keep running with it while you can lock it in there.
I also think there's been an acknowledgement from bowling coaches that the Yorker has been hard to execute, so they've actually tried to formulate different plans. And not saying that those different plans have actually worked, but they've just, I suppose, given some of their bowlers a bit of respite around nailing 6 Yorkers. And I know every time it happens, the commentators sort of roll their eyes and say, why can't everyone just bowl a Yorker? Because it's the hardest ball to bowl. It's exceptionally difficult to bowl, and that's why we're in awe of Arshdeep Singh at the moment, is because he's nailing it and he's performing a role that is so difficult to do.
Is there a drill to perfect the Yorker? I mean, Malinga with his shoes, etc. is well known, but is there a drill?
There's a million drills. You see the bowling coaches run through them. They try them all the time, but it's just not replicating that intensity of an IPL match and how much it means to people, and defending 12 or 23, whatever it is. It doesn't replicate it, and skills don't there's no way to put that pressure on bowlers at the time. So they're always talking about it, but I think there are a lot more backup plans now than just hit your Yorker.
And do most bowlers, Ben, just feel like they are likelier to miss the Yorker than hit it, and less likely to get some of their other stock balls wrong? A length ball gives you more margin. Is that just a tendency among more bowlers, Arshdeep being an exception?
I feel like you go through phases that, today I feel like I can back my Yorker. I know that I can get it in the hole, so I'm going to run with it. And there are other days you might feel a little bit off with your timing. The ball might be dewy, so it might not be the best option to go to your Yorker, because if you do miss, there's more consequence for it. And I think consequence is a massive one when you're bowling the Yorker, because you can nail it all day in training, but as soon as you get put out in front of an IPL crowd with the game on the line, it's a very, very different kettle of fish.
All right. Well, Arshdeep Singh has a different sort of job today. He's going to be bowling first. So we'll see what he can restrict Lucknow to. And that takes us to score time, because we saw an unusually low-scoring game, one that you appreciate, of course. So what are we going to see today from Lucknow? An in-form Lucknow team? What are they going to get?
169.
169. Would you call that high-scoring?
That's medium.
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 Sure. All right, Ben, give me a prediction.
175 for 6.
There and thereabouts. Yeah, all right. Very well. Let's see if Ben Cutting's closer to his 175 or Dan Vettori to his 169. Join us for that chat at halftime on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by IQ 95G. Before I leave you, though, have a look at the IQ ESPN Cricket for Biggest Fan Challenge. It's your chance to be on our live show. Just answer that in 6 words or less. Kohli is to Bengaluru. Kohli to Bengaluru is like, and follow those 3 steps. Like the post, comment with hashtag IQ, hashtag ESPN Cricket for, hashtag Biggest Fan Challenge, and share it on your social media. Wonder with every game if you're getting more creative answers. Kohli to Bengaluru is like, are you getting a better answer since I last asked you?
No, and I said I'm not good at these things, so I defer to you.
Yeah, all right. Maybe I can ask Ben Cutting. Ben, you want to try and enter that contest?
I'm better than Cutsy.
Yeah, you're better than Cutsy. Are you? Okay.
He's got me covered.
Kohli to Bangalore is like, come on, like Cutting to Vettori. No? No? Cutting to Brisbane Heat.
Yes.
No. Oh, that's too soon.
Wow. Sore point.
Oh, all right, we leave it there. Ben Cutting, pick up the chat with you and Dan Vettori at halftime. Join us at the end of the Lucknow innings.